This is the Projekt Gemineye Update, your source for all things Projekt Gemineye. Brought to you by Riffical Records. And here's your host, Mark Anthony K. Greetings, friends. So, we're back again for part 2 of the Ordinary Day 5th Anniversary Look Back. And you're going to find this a little odd because I'm recording this segment last. So I look totally different here than I will in the rest of the video. So don't get confused. The recording of these parts were a little different in timing. But in any case, I'm just doing a little introductory bit here because I want to start this video, part 2, the same way I started part 1 with that little introductory segment that I did in part 1. And then we'll cut over to part 2 of An Ordinary Day, a look back, a 5-year anniversary. So let's cut over to that segment or that introductory piece right now. If you would have told me 10 years ago that when I broke my leg and ended up in hospital for 4 months, that would have been the start or the trigger, if you would, for the beginning of Projekt Gemineye and An Ordinary Day, I probably would never have believed you. But here we are, 5 years after the fact. Riffical Records presents a look back at An Ordinary Day. Greetings, friends, and welcome to part 2 of the 5th anniversary of An Ordinary Day. It's been a while since the first part that I released a little while ago. Lots of things happening, as you might imagine, so I hadn't had that much time to work on this, but now is the right time to work on this. So let's continue from where I left off. The last time I was with you guys, we were talking about all kinds of parts of the record, the making of it, inspirations and stuff like that. Excuse me. And, I got to the making of it and so on and so forth. What I want to talk to you guys about today is an aspect of the album that it was really important. And what I'm going to be talking about today is podcasts. Now, when a band first starts, it's essential, I find, to get promotion. Obviously, you want to get the name out there. You want to get the record in front of as many people as you can and get them talking about it. And in this day and age where the internet is so important, podcasts have become a very, very important part of that sort of promotional avenue. So I'm going to talk to you guys a bit about the ones that I thought were important. They're all important, but I'm going to talk to you guys about the ones that I feel got the wheel rolling for Projekt Gemineye. So the first one I'm going to be talking about is Pottered in Hell. Now, Pottered in Hell, I met those guys at the Rock and Pod convention in Nashville, at the very first one actually, and we had a great chat. Me and Steve did, Steve Wright, and we discussed many things about music and the different kinds of bands that we liked. And I told him about Projekt Gemineye, and he was immediately interested. And we decided that it was a good idea that we would hook up and do an interview and just talk about the band. So I did that. I've done quite a few episodes with these guys. I've done different album segments. I've done a long like a long form Rush one with them, where we've gone over pretty much the whole discography at this point. But he's done every single Projekt Gemineye release since the first one. And the first one was very important, like I said. Nobody had heard Projekt Gemineye stuff before. This was the first album. And they really, really did a great job in putting it out there and talking about it. So they do episodes every week. They've done so many different episodes. The great thing about their podcast, of course, is because it's not committed to one band. They can do so many different kinds of things. They've done so many different bands that they have a broad audience. It's not like, I do the Kiss podcast, and that, mainly attracts Kiss fans, right? So when I do talk about my stuff on there, it's pretty limited attention-wise, because some of the Kiss fans like my stuff, some don't, right? But when I do it on a podcast like Steve's, where there's so many different people coming to the podcast from different angles, whether it's Whitesnake or Van Halen, or just, so many different bands they talk about, there's a better chance that I can hook in a few people to check out my music. So it's been a fantastic podcast to be on, and I highly suggest you guys check out Potter Than Hell. And of course, as you probably suspected, we have a segment from Steve that he did for me to talk about An Ordinary Day. So let's cut over to that right now.
Greetings, friends. How you doing? I'm Steve Wright from the Potter Than Hell podcast, and I'm here to wish Mark happy 5th anniversary for Ordinary Day. Fantastic album. I've been on board with Mark and Projekt Gemineye from day one. I have the vinyl here, the first edition here, numbered 11. And I met Mark a while back. We met him at Rockin' Pod 1, and we had a good conversation. And, this album, and I also have the CD. This album is fantastic. It's actually something that I was really looking forward to when it came out, and all the subsequent releases are fantastic. They keep getting better and better, and I just love this CD. And I love when you get that and A Brand New Day together. You get the whole story of what took place with Mark. Just a fantastic album. And, if you showed this to someone that, never checked it out before, and you say, hey, this guy did everything on here, like guitars, drums, keyboards, vocals, everything, I tell people that and they're blown away. And I'm still blown away by this album. And there's always something about a first album from an artist that is fantastic. And I go back to this often. And I want to say something to all the other artists out there. Take a page from Mark's book. He gives you a fantastic package. You get the anti-static sleeves, you get the posters, you get the whole deal, and he really cares about us supporters and us guys at the Potter Than Hell podcast. We want to say congratulations, Mark, and you guys check out some more Projekt Gemineye. Have a good night.
So there you go. That's Stephen Wright from the Potter Than Hell podcast, and thank you very much, Steve, for doing that video for me. Now, another podcast that I wanted to talk about that was very important as well in the development of Projekt Gemineye, as well as my other bands, the Dark Monarchy, and even I'm not even sure if maybe he was involved a little bit with Mark Anthony Kane, the Lower Third Collective, but I'm talking about DJ Peter Prague and his fantastic show, Check It Out, which is on Fridays on progrock.com, and he also has a show called Epic Mondays, Epic Mondays, in which he plays epic progressive rock songs. Now, before I start this, I do want to mention that Steve Wright also has helped quite a bit with the Dark Monarchy as well. Sorry I didn't mention that earlier, it just kind of came to me just now as I started talking about it with DJ Peter Prague. Now, getting back to DJ Peter Prague, his show has a pretty decent following. It's over in Wales, in the UK. And the great thing about his show is not only does he play a lot of undiscovered music within the prog genre, but he has a very active chat room where you can go and check out, other listeners of the show, and you can talk with them and connect with them. And that's actually how I, in fact, got a hold of Joe Bailey, and our friendship started, and then our musical relationship started with not only him helping me out with Project Gemineye music, but also we got together for the Dark Monarchy. So to say DJ Peter Prague has been important to Project Gemineye is an understatement. He's played my music frequently on his show, and every time he has played it, there's always been, sales of my records, whether it's CD or vinyl. And another thing that he does frequently is he has an album of the week segment in which he'll select an album that he really enjoys, and he'll play like 90% of it on his show. His shows are usually about 3 hours long, so even if you have like a 45-minute album, chances are he could play pretty much almost all of it on his show for you. And while he didn't do that, I don't think for Ordinary Day. I don't remember exactly if he did that for Ordinary Day, but he did play quite a lot of it before. I'm going to venture to say he probably did do an Ordinary Day as the album of the week, but it's been so long since that happened, I can't remember fully. But he has impeccable taste in music. All the bands that he's had on his show, as far as album of the weeks, I think except for maybe a few, I think I bought all of them online from Bandcamp. So that's got to tell you something. I'm not one to buy a lot of new music. I mean, I do like new bands a lot, but it's got to hit me in the right place, here when I hear it. And so far he's been pretty good with that, as far as getting me interested in new music. So Peter Prague has like I said, a weekly show, and I also want to give him my condolences. Well, not condolences. I want to give him my thoughts and prayers right now. His partner is going through a bit of a hard time. I believe that she has a really serious medical condition right now, and he's by her side, constantly helping her through what as any good guy would do, I suppose. And I just want to give my best regards to Peter and his partner, and stay strong. Now, Peter also ended up sending me a clip about An Ordinary Day. He sent me an audio clip, which is fine. I mean, that's his medium, that's his strength, is audio, not so much video. So, without any further ado, let's go over to that let's go over to that audio clip with DJ Peter Prague and see what he has to say about An Ordinary Day.
Hello, Peter Prague here. Mark Anthony Kay kicked off Projekt Gemineye with An Ordinary Day on the 7th of March 2017. I remember Mark sending me a copy, and I put it on with excitement and some trepidation, as I've not heard anything from Mark before. But I had no worries, because it was a wondrous album indeed, of symphonic and melodic progressive rock, with the occasional nod to progressive metal, and why not? Thoughtful, positive, reflective, and beautiful all come to mind as I listened. I can't believe it's already coming to the 5th anniversary of An Ordinary Day. Doesn't time fly? But it wasn't an ordinary day for Mark and myself, as we have gone on to become good friends, lifelong friends, I do hope, I'm sure. Helping Mark get together with Joe Bailey to form the Dark Monarchy, and so the story of Projekt Gemineye and the Dark Monarchy continues at pace. So please get on board. And you can do just that by tuning into my Check It Out show only on progrock.com, your ticket to the best progressive rock.
So there you have it. DJ Peter Prague, and his thoughts on An Ordinary Day. So the last podcast that I'm going to talk about in this segment is one that I'm sure people will be not surprised I'm going to be talking about, mainly because I'm a co-host on it as well, and that's the Yes Music podcast. Now, Yes has been a band that I followed for a very, very long time, since I was, young, like 16 years old. I think I was a fan of Yes. I was listening to this podcast pretty much from its inception. I think from, at least 10 years back, 9 years back or so it started. And I was listening to it. I remember I must have been like episode 11 or so when I first started listening to it. And I, was a loyal listener. And after a while, I started messaging him during, as part of the show. I would send him emails, or I would comment on the page, and I would send in an email reviews of like a Rick Wakeman album, and he enjoyed my reviews of the albums, and he started reading them on his show. That weekly segment turned into a spot where I would do an audio review of albums, and they were mainly Rick Wakeman albums at that time. That was my kind of shtick, doing Rick Wakeman stuff. And he enjoyed it so much that one time, years after I started doing this, he contacted me and asked if I would be interested in becoming a permanent co-host with him on the show. And I was absolutely floored, because I love Yes and I love this podcast. So when I got asked to do it, it was a very important time in my life, and I'm happy to say that I'm still involved with it religiously and take it very seriously. And as far as An Ordinary Day goes, Kevin has been really supportive of my music. He talks about it a lot. He's done segments about Projekt Gemineye on this podcast, which really, I guess technically he shouldn't, because it has nothing to do with Yes, but to show his friendship to me, and he does it, and he didn't care that people might react negatively to it, but there hasn't been really a negative reaction to it. In fact, I gained quite a few supporters from that happening, and I am very grateful to Kevin for that, and grateful to the listeners of the Yes Music podcast for taking a chance and listening to my music and becoming supporters of it. Kevin is a great guy, vast knowledge of Yes and music in general. When he reviews an album, it's something to behold. I mean, he goes into such great detail of it. Whenever we do a review of an album or a new release, I've learned already a long time ago to let him do the more extremely detailed, version of the analyses of the album, and I kind of give you the kind of man on the streets, approach to it, and kind of find like little quirks about the records or stuff like that. And that's my kind of end of the reviews thing, and it works really well. I mean, you get a very complete review of an album. Now, getting back to Projekt Gemineye, he's always enjoyed my music. Like he said, he's always talked about it. And to show his commitment to the music even one step further, this past album that came out this year, in the year 3073, Book 2, he signed on to be executive producer. And he was very influential in getting Lee Pomeroy to play bass on this record. So, for him, it wasn't just about, getting his name on the jacket, which I'm sure everybody else, it wasn't just about that too. People like getting involved in my music, I find. And the people that have been executive producers on my record have always, went out of their way to do a little bit extra to help me out. And I really appreciate that. And like I said, Kevin, really helped me out in getting Lee Pomeroy aboard that record. So, as far as An Ordinary Day goes, that was his introduction to my music. And, he didn't have to get involved with it. He could have just, said, oh, it's a good record, whatever, and that was that. But he's always been interested in it. He's always been asking about it. He always asked what's going on with the band and stuff like that. So he's helped out a great deal in the push of it. And at the very beginning, when I needed the help, he was there for it in spades. So let's go over now to Kevin Mulrine and his comments about An Ordinary Day.
Hello, this is Kevin Mulrine from the Yes Music podcast, and I'm delighted to be able to take part in these 5th anniversary celebrations for this album, Projekt Gemineye, An Ordinary Day. Now, if you don't listen to the Yes Music podcast, why not? But seriously, Mark is my co-host on the show, and that's how I found out about this album and all his solo work, which is so amazing. I love this quote from Martin Popoff on the sticker for this first album: a collection of 6 tracks that takes one away to exotic worlds. And you can tell that from the artwork as well. Fantastic stuff. I've enjoyed very much hearing each of the albums that Mark's put together, and I'm very glad that he came to be my co-host on the Yes Music podcast. So I got to know him. He's a fantastic guy, and his amazing music. I can't get over how talented he is. Each of the instruments he plays on each album, and just great stuff. So thank you very much indeed, Mark, for your music, for your friendship, and for your co-hosting of the Yes Music podcast. And many more years I hope you have of great music making. Thanks again.
So there you go. There's the comments from Kevin Mulrine about An Ordinary Day. And thank you again, Kevin, for all your help and all your support throughout the years. Now, the last thing I want to talk about really quickly before I end up this segment is about the artwork. Now, Projekt Gemineye albums have come to be known as much for the music as the artwork as well. The guy responsible for the artwork is a gentleman by the name of James McCarthy, who's a an excellent painter that lives in Florida. Now, how did I come across this guy? This has been a story or a question that's been asked numerous times by people in interviews that I've done, and just in general. So I'll talk about it here one more time. When I started the Projekt Gemineye thing and I decided that I was going to make an album, a proper album, I knew that if there was one thing that I was not going to do myself, and I've done everything, the drums, bass, guitars, everything, mix, mastering, is that I was not going to do the artwork. There's just no way. I mean, my artwork is like a 5-year-old child's compared to something like James McCarthy's. So I went on Facebook, and I started browsing around and looking for artists online. I'm not sure how I actually stumbled across James, but I must have put something into the search bar about artwork or something like that, or painting or something. And I started getting these, people's pages, and I came across James McCarthy. And a couple of things really caught my eye. And one of the things that really caught my eye about his artwork was the fact that he did a couple of paintings that were inspired by Yes albums. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is really cool. It had a little certain bit of Roger Dean to it, but it has his own element to it. This is the one thing I love about James's artwork, is that I can't really point to another artist that I think it reminds me of. Now, that's not to say that I'm some art expert, but I think he definitely has his own flair for painting. And like I said 100 times before, I can't imagine doing a Projekt Gemineye album without having James doing the artwork for it. In fact, I'll go on record, I don't think that I will ever do a Projekt Gemineye album without him doing the album cover for it. I mean, it would have to be something really drastic for him not to do it, in my opinion. So, as you probably see, I've been putting up images of the album covers that he's done. And not only that, but he's done poster images for me. He's done, he's actually contributed a few pieces just out of the blue. Like, I would go to him. I remember when I did the compilation, Tomorrow is Another Day. That's the name of the compilation. Sorry, I had to think about it for a second. when I did that compilation, it was for, when COVID first started, I wanted to put out a free compilation of Project Gemini songs out. And I wanted to put a decent cover to it as well. And James is that kind of guy that, by this point we've had a pretty strong relationship as far as working with each other. And I remember contacting him and saying, listen, James, I want to put out a free compilation for people on my Bandcamp page. Would you be okay to maybe donate one of your art pieces as the album cover? He didn't have to say yes, and I've never taken anything from him for free. This is a professional, artist, so I would have a great problem taking things from him for free. And he did offer a couple things for free because I was doing it for free for the people. So that artwork piece is a fantastic piece, and it's one of my favorite covers, actually, to be honest with you, that I used for Project Gemini stuff. But the Ordinary Day album cover to me will always be special. Why? Mainly because, okay, of course, it's the first one, so you'd always remember your first when it comes to many things. Your first car, your first girlfriend, you remember your first. So, but this album cover is special to me because I remember when we started talking about it, he asked me if I had any kind of ideas for it. And I just had, one or two little ideas. I had the idea in my mind that I wanted this little small tree up in the corner for some reason. And it was just really minute little things. And I just told him my ideas. And I pretty much told him, apart from those little things, you can do whatever he wants. Here's the album title. Do whatever you want. And he came back with that fantastic album cover. And I was so blown away by it because I had told him in an email, I believe it was, that I envisioned some sort of, like a piece of wood or something with like kind of veins coming out of it that had liquid going through it. And he totally hit the nail on the head with his painting of this. And I really loved the way he put that gem in the middle of the image. It's just everything that I was hoping for. The album cover became that. And I think that for most people, when I talk about An Ordinary Day, a lot of people have said that that's their favorite album cover that I've had on my records. So I think in closing, James is an essential piece of the Project Gemini family. And I've said it before and I'll say it here again. James McCarthy is my Roger Dean. And I'm honored to have him aboard, the Project Gemini family. And, it's now June. And next month I'll be working on In the Year 3073 Book 3, if you can believe it. And we already have the album cover for that. James, I gave him a heads up a long time ago about that, and he came through in spades again. I'm not going to show you the cover here yet, but needless to say, it's another classic. He hit the ball out of the park, like unbelievably well. I didn't ask James to do a comment about An Ordinary Day. I probably really should have, but he's a pretty busy guy, and I just thought it best to just let me talk about it a bit, and just to convey how important his work is to me and for my music. So I'm going to leave it at that for this part of the episode. I may come back with a part 3. I think I might have to talk about a couple of other things, but if I don't, then thank you for watching. I'll be, of course, back with a regular Project Gemini update very soon. Things are rolling. There's going to be a couple of records coming out soon. Record store days around the corner too. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And yeah, thank you for watching. And thank you to everybody who has submitted their comments about An Ordinary Day. I really enjoyed listening to it. Sorry, guys, my throat's been terrible lately. I really enjoyed listening to them, and it's really brought back a lot of fantastic memories. So, until we meet again, This is Mark Anthony K saying bye for now.